Hello and welcome back. I'm Joe and this is a tutorial for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. Today I'll show you all about non-blocking junctions and how to build them. Welcome back. So today I would like to show you what I learned from building junctions. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, always remember to pause your game when you're in planning mode, very important. But effectively, this is usually what I do. I just build junctions and hope they work out, and then sometimes I have them come back, and this is fine until you have more trains. Once you have more trains are just going to block each other, and if you place a couple signals wrong, for example, there's a release signal there, and if you ever have a regular block signal right here, those are pointing the wrong way. You have a block signal right here, there's an easy way for trains to get stuck on this rail. And then they block everything else. And that is pretty easy to get to, especially if you don't have a lot of space right afterwards. Because once the first train stops somewhere, if it's a gas station, if it's a station, if it's something else where they actually have to wait, the next train has to wait, the next train has to wait, the next train has to wait. Eventually, you will have a train that even if you put your signals at a good distance, and if you need to know what distance you have, just put your rail or road next to it, and it will tell you total length, 183 meters. Cool. Well, if you have a train that's 184 meters, it will stick out of this signal that's down here, and once it sticks out, this whole junction is going to turn blocked. It will just, signals will not let you through. And that is not very helpful if you have a big rail network or a road network, doesn't matter which one. So, what I found, non-blocking junctions. The first time I saw this was with Peter 220. Simple video, he just explained how he did it. But his version was add, I'm going to say a number, about 8 of these rails until you are far enough out here, and then you delete the middle ones, and then you start raising the land. That is a lot of work for me. I rather just do it by feel. And when I do that, this is what I do. Lay out your road wherever you want it, or rail. You can do this with a road or rail. I will show you the clover leaf first. Lay it out wherever you want it. Then when you have, for example, if you already have rail coming in from one side, you know exactly where your bridge is going to be, because you want to keep this as close to 90 degrees as possible. Once you get past 90 degrees, it will get a little harder for you to get it done. Once you're in this space, you can go super simple. Just use the raise terrain. Hover your mouse in the middle of the 2 tracks that you have and raise it. Cool. This is done. That's the first way you can do this. As you can see, there's a lot of dirt on here. There's 2 simple ways to fix it. One, when you actually build them, you can place signals on the track. You can remove them if you want, but placing the signals actually removes the dirt that you shoved on them. A second way to fix this is to put a piece of track on the outside of the rail that you actually want, and then raise the land around it again. You may dig in the outside rails, but you're not going to dig in the inside rails, which is what you want. You can leave these as long as you want. I like to have my wireframe on, and really in the end, I am just raising it until it's not raising anymore. At this point, it's not doing anything, and I'm clicking the button. Usually, you need a little more. So go out a little bit. You really want this white square just to be a little bit visible. Then you pick the bridges. Bridges are not the same. They have different requirements for heights and different requirements for pillar distance, and they're just different. They're not the same, which I think is a great thing. Make sure you try all of them. The last one here, the steel deck truss, needs a lot more height because there is, you can barely see it, there is a steel body right below it. So usually I don't use those. What I do then, just raise a little more of your land. Just a little more. You usually don't need a lot, but just get it to the right place. Place your bridge somewhere on the white spaces, and you will see this. That's all you want. And you can add more rails on the bottom line, but there is a max width of what these the pillars for the bridges can actually do. But once you have a place that you actually like, place a second bridge right next to it, and now it's pretty simple. You can just remove the tracks that you don't actually want, and then connect the rest. Apparently I did this a little off-centered, so let's do that again. The first thing you want to do, if you do a two-way junction that are going through, so a full clover leaf like I'm doing here, make sure you have the straight lines connected out on both sides, because that will help you a little bit connect the rest. And cloverleaf junctions can be pretty big, so keep that in mind. Speed is not an issue in this game. Trains are essentially just going the same speed uphill or downhill. It doesn't really matter. They're not really affected by that. For now, they may change that and I would welcome that, but for right now, just make a circle. However you like the circle. You can make this really exact, but honestly, I like when the clover leaves look a little unique. But what I do then is just connect to the same spot on the opposite rail, and you will find this a lot, that you just have red. Red just happens. When that happens, you use the average or the height from center terrain helpers, and just raise your terrain a little bit, go back to the rail, and at some point it will turn yellow. Once it turns yellow, you already won. Because you just have to, I call it wiggle with it a little bit, but eventually this will just work. If you start out on a relatively flat surface, it will be easier. You can also do it if it's not flat. But it's just, sometimes it gets a little wonky and that is fine. I would never start right at the end of the bridge. Always give yourself a few meters. I think each of these squares is about 10 meters. Let's verify that. Yeah, each of these squares is 10 meters. Give yourself about 10-20 meters before you start putting the rail in. Do the same thing. I'll finish this quick and I'll show you the other things. Now the whole clover leaf is done, and if you're happy with this, you can build it either manually or by hand. If you want to build it manually, which means within rail yard construction office, do this. Give yourself a crossing before the junction, then place signals so that essentially the whole middle rail or the main rail is isolated, which means you would place mixed signals on all the entrances, but none of the exits. If that makes sense. If this is on a already used setup, this will help you keep things rolling a little bit, but it will slow you down because of the way the signals work. Just on this side, just have one in and one out. If you drive on the left side, just the opposite of that. But keep this whole purple section as it is. You can have multiple rail construction offices work on this at the same time, but I will tell you, if both of these rails are already used, it's going to be painful. So ideally, you build these types of junctions right away at the beginning, and then you won't have many issues. But this is the first one. Again, this is if you want to build it by hand. Just set them up so that all the orange, in this case, will be one block. It's fine if there's only one train in there. Once you get into placing more signals on the rest of these, at some point, you're going to have two trains locked. So don't add too many signals right at the beginning if you want to build it yourself. Once you're actually done with everything, I'll show you how the signals should be set up then. I just placed the power unit over here so the signs aren't there, which are a little irritating. But once you have this done, signaling is really easy because you now don't have anything that can block anything. Just the junctions are pretty isolated, which is exactly why we want this. But in general, still follow our normal rules of chain in and block out. So this is a chain. Then you add a block signal at the end of that so they can get out. And you don't necessarily have to use chain signals here. The only thing this does is keep this junction open, and you really don't need that. I just find follow the rule that you set up. So it's easier to play the game later on. But I will finish all of these, and there's a simple clue that will tell you if you have it done correctly or if there's a mistake. Great. Let me show you what that trick is. When I look at this, I only want to see orange and blue. Orange means it's a junction with more than one entrance, and blue means it's just a block, a very simple block. That's what you want. If you have purple, that means there's a junction followed by a junction, and you don't want that like that. So you want to see orange and blue like over here, over here, over here, over here, over here, and over here. The purple over here indicates you have forgot a couple signals. They're not the end of the world, but you will speed up your process a little bit if you add the signals that are missing, which are just these two. Now you can see everything is blue and orange, and running trains over this will be pretty basic, and this is also a turnaround spot if you really need it. For example, if you have a train that goes up this way, goes north, you could take this off-ramp and then this off-ramp, and could go south again. So you don't need any roundabouts, which are honestly a terrible thing for traffic flow. Everything is connected, and that's how you can also build this whole intersection from just one entrance. It's pretty cool, and it's really effective. There are other options for this. You can do a trumpet intersection, which is very similar to this. I will just show you how that looks. Okay, this is the first version. It just doesn't have the outgoing rail on this side, and this is one way to do it. Use your imagination to make this different, because the other way, personally, I find looks better. You come out this way, follow this rail for a little while, and then you then you could come out here. And if you build it like this, it will actually look more like a trumpet on this side. It's pretty cool, works. You do the same thing if you want to use road over rail or rail over road. There's no difference. The only difference really is roads have different bridges that you can use. I like to use one of these two archy bridges. Just put them over there, and as you can see here, it's already enough if you just do the normal height adjustment. And now you have roads that just run over rail and nothing's going to be blocked ever. If you want to use this in cities, normally I say build road early. You don't necessarily have to do it first, but build road early. If you want bridges have to be early, otherwise you run out of space, because they do require a lot of terrain manipulation just around the bridges. You can lower this and you can use the space outside here, but definitely use bridges first. And that's all I have. This is how you can build really simple non-blocking junctions. I hope I helped some of you guys. If I did, like and subscribe. If I didn't, please let me know what else I could have told you, and I will try to address that. Thanks for watching. Bye.